It's the weekly 30-30 trading list on the ASX. We're reviewing the 30 best momentum companies over the last quarter and those that have had the best improvement in the last week, what we call the launchpad. Gary Glover has been through both lists, 30 of each, to pull out the best charts, ones that we can learn from, the ones where he's looking to trade, and the ones that are best to dissect. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Good, Chris. Yeah, this is number one on the list. It's obviously had a nice move here. Pretty small. M or M is the code there. Probably a little too small for me. ANX, I thought was probably number 3, was probably the first one was a bit more interesting there, just because it had a little bit of a VCP, a little bit of a tightening pattern in here, and then sort of came out of here, but really sort of didn't have any volume until after the breakout there. So again, probably a little small as well, so made it a bit hard. A couple we touched on last week was vinyl. Sort of went a bit further and has pulled back a bit here. And FRB, we talked about last week as well. That has sort of got a bit further as well. Sort of would have liked to have seen it pull up underneath the high, but it has gone through the high there. GBE was number 10 on the list there. Bit choppy here, but there was a bit of volume here in the last sort of week or two there. So it's probably a bit of a watch for me. But again, it's all a bit small here, some of these ones, so makes it a bit harder to trade there. Thought WMG was sort of interesting there just because it has had some pretty heavy volume there. Has broken above the old swing high here. It's a possible change of character, and you're looking for a little bit of a tight. So it has come back a little further there. I probably wouldn't like to sort of see it go beyond this sort of high here, really, the old high there. So I'd like to sort of see it hold in here. Volume has dried up a bit here, a bit lighter, but to me, I'd want to sort of hold here today here, I think. But yeah, one to sort of keep an eye on there just because it has had some pretty good volume, pretty impulsive move, has broken above the old highs. Is in that metal sort of area, which is obviously doing pretty well. Like MTC, yeah, the similar, bit choppy there, a bit small, but some decent volume as well. So a bit of a wait and see there. MMC was probably the one that I thought, let's look. This is sort of one that came up previously there, Chris. We talked about this little, maybe high type flag in here as well, maybe a little BCP in there. We have broken out there, that big day there, the volume there has gone through the high and kept going here. So that's, that's a pretty good signal there, really. As much as this is pretty small, that tightening in there. You saw there what happened there wasn't much volume there. Even in here, they had a little bit of volume there, but not too much as well. But maybe a little heavier there, but yeah, good volume on that rise again as well. So that's not a bad little pattern there.
So each time it's jumped up, looks like it jumped up on news. Those 3 largest days with the highest green volume, they're days where it jumped up. And are they almost like a change of character in themselves? They're just a really good signal that when it's jumping up and running, there's a lot of volume behind the move.
Well, it's pretty solid volume through there each day. So that tells you that, like sometimes this can be like a wave 4, and then this could be the last wave, and then but usually if that's a wave 5, it's usually a bit lighter volume. Whereas this is expanded here. This is pretty strong volume. That's a bit of a game changer sort of move. Breakout on bigger volume of probably the second largest volume day of the year. So that's a good sign. And it has gone on pretty simple. So this looks pretty solid here. So this is definitely one to keep on the radar there. So you want to sort of see another move here. Maybe this can tighten up again at some point and then go again. But that's solid volume. That is pretty, that's good sort of shape there for a longer term. When you look back at the stocks that have run for a long time, they have that type of setup there in terms of the volume profile as well. It's when you don't see much volume there come in that they tend to have these moves, and then they, like pretty large corrections there. But something like that, we got to watch that one there now because it's pretty strong. Had a pretty strong move, bit of a leader, big volume here. We just want to see some sort of pause, some sort of tightening up there, and yeah, see how we go there. This one's sort of a bit messier there, but obviously sort of something new's come out in the stock here, obviously driven it up a bit. So they had a pretty,
Gemini, GEN.
yeah, it's had a pretty big move there, the GEN there. I think it's actually, I think it might be, oh, that's iron ore in Africa. Whereas actually the WA8, one we just covered before, that's a copper and gold play as well. So those sort of two metals are current on the WA8 as well. So that they can, if they keep driving there, that could keep driving. The GEN is iron ore in Africa, I think, which is probably a bit riskier. So hence probably the kind of messier sort of setup there. The next one there, number 18, was PSC. So got a little bit of a high and tight flag here again, Chris.
Definitely.
Similar to that one we just showed there before. What was that?
MMC, I think, was it? MMC margin mining.
MMC, was it? But this in the end. Oh, yeah. So similar setup to that. So basically got a pretty strong move tightening up here. So PSC's got a similar setup there. Some pretty good volume off this base here. Bit small, but we're blowing out the old highs out. So that's pretty impulsive there. Pretty big volume as well. So now we're sort of seeing this tightening price action there. So this is definitely one we should be keeping a close eye on there. So that does look pretty solid there.
And you and I know from our studies of these two things, if that's conforming to the volume profile that you just set these, if this sector is moving well and appears, like you just listed a few of the other commodities that are running, if the similar commodity stocks on the ASX are moving, then the likelihood of this high and tight flag meeting its next profit target sort of doubles in charts. And also, if it's only the first one in this after the recent decline, it's a good move. But just where you've got there on that chart in the weekly, it looked like there could have been three, and the third one we've looked at often fails. So,
yeah. So it's obviously had a pretty good run. It's had a pretty large correction here, come back, and then sort of been building again. So, it's still pretty interesting here. So, probably the only negative is the sort of small share price there. I sort of don't really like to trade them under 30 cents or so. Just usually where you get caught there, and the percentages are obviously larger, each 0.5% a cent on a smaller base there. So, I'm in the business of making money, but I'm also mindful of not trying to lose much either. So, oftentimes the risk management is almost more important there. So it's easier to sort of manage your risk on sort of bigger stocks. Small ones there, sort of each 0.5% a cent or 2 cents there can be big percentage on those sort of smaller names. So it can get chewed up pretty hard on that. If it stops too wide there. CU6, obviously this one's been on the list for a while. Chris talked about this one. Had that little pause there and it broke through. Again, there's that, a pretty big volume there to kind of run through here. So we'll be chasing this here now, but has had a pretty good run here again. So probably about, monitoring that, looking for the next pause there. ALC I thought was interesting. Starting to build here. This was sort of a popular name actually there in the last bullish phase there, sort of software in that healthcare sector. So, pretty interesting company. Really has come off quite a lot here. So, but starting to build here. Few little possible change of character there. Seen okay volume without seeing awesome volume so far. So, probably just want to keep an eye on rather than, I only sort of caught my eye just because I know the company or the name there, and there was a lot of people sort of touting it. But it has gone the other way. VUL was sort of one that I actually had in my weekly report this week. Nice BCP on the VUL press as well. So we had pretty good volume up here. Pulled back, first leg down. This is our sort of second leg up, some good volume again. Pulled back here. So BCP basically means obviously each pullback is getting narrower. It's getting each pullback's getting smaller. So that's really the first pullback, second pullback, third pullback, and then we're popping through the top here. So once we break out here, it's funny. There was actually some sort of heavier. The volume wasn't perfect in there. I would say there's some heavier days in here. Well, obviously some heavier down days in the first leg there. Definitely dried up onto this low here. The only thing I will say here is that it did the volume down on the last leg down here did really lighten up. There's probably a couple of lighter volume days. Then we saw the volume sort of come in, and then the volume sort of did have that light day, and then we've broken through it here, had a move there. So that does look pretty good there. I mean, that's sort of set up there. Normally you're looking at trying to project that sort of setup here. So I think normally like the technical target there, depending on I think usually around the apex there's say 245, say 250 to 360, about 90 cents. So you're projecting sort of up here around 450 or something like that. So my sort of rule of thumb, which used to be, if I look at those sort of triangles in the apex, that's your target. I would probably be aiming for around 80% of that target. It's sort of sometimes they don't always reach the 100% of the target. It might come up short, might push longer, but 80% of that target's always a good sign there to look for. That sort of, I know when I used to sort of trade a lot of triangles and stuff there, that I think using the 80% principle was a good one to use there. RTG.
Volkowski might follow something very similar to that as well for his measure rule.
Yeah. But RTG was another one that sort of did break above a high here. So possible change of character, a bit of volume in there, a bit small here. But the whole thing tightened up here, so no volume there, and then we sort of started to break up here. So I thought this looked okay here, but again, just too small for me personally. But I thought RTG looked pretty good. BOT was sort of one that, this one has been on the list over the years a few times actually. Bit of a cup and handle in here, Chris, as well. Just sort of look, go up to the high, had a bit of a pullback there, come back to retest the high. Probably handles come back half the, probably like to see this a little narrower, like to maybe see it in the top third, or maybe the top quarter would be even stronger, but probably come back to half the range. But the important thing there is it actually, it really just kept building there. And then once it actually broke out, there was some pretty good volume on the breakout. So come back to the usual retest. This is, we'll often do this, come back and retest the break zone and then go on with it. So it's just a nice little pattern here, actually, really. There's another stock which comes to mind, which I think I've mentioned a few times, was Nuix as well. So again, in the old days there, when I sort of see these stocks go to a near high and fail, that would be a negative sign for me in the old days. But now I know these sort of stronger name momentum plays there. They'll often come back in three ways. This is probably stayed in the top third. A lot of the volume through there as well, really, really light, not much selling at all. And the whole thing started to square up here. And this is, to me, looking at that little B wave break in here. That was a good sign here, breaking above that level, that this could be on here. Just happened to be pretty big volume that day as well, so pretty solid. Couple of little inside days here, and we're breaking through here. So this is a pretty good breakout there. Nuix is in that, kind of in that AI space. Actually, one of the few names actually in Australia that's actually got a business, and Nuix had a lot of issues when it first came out, but has seemed to, like, the last 2 or 3 sort of reports have been a lot more positive there and heading in the right direction. So yeah, I did like this one a lot, actually, just in the right sort of the right area for a move there. I think that was the last one there on the it might have been the last one here. It's NAM. Bit small here, Namo Cotton. Obviously another commodity, Chris. Obviously a different type of commodity, but pretty strong move. There's pretty big volumes through there. A bit lightly traded, this one, but yeah, just interesting there. But that was the quarterly momentum there. But
So
lots of metals in there, Chris, as well. That's the thing we're seeing, right through again.
Well, yeah, some good common themes in the quarterly momentum ones, which sort of, as you can see there, play out for many months at a time. As you've sort of been through that list and you're looking towards the weekly list, those that have had the better improvement, is there anything that's jumping out at you? And sometimes you'll look at the list and say, look, I've just found gold names everywhere, or lithium names, or uranium. Is there anything that's sort of come to you and said, well, really popped out and stood out to be leaders or something shining this week?
Yeah, nothing overriding there. Look, there's a few more lithium names in the list this week. There's still plenty of other mining names in there. So lots of mineral sands and different. You know, I mean, I was looking up lots of stuff here. I was looking up, our stock there was like, was it neobium and tantalum? You know, so there was some metals in there that I was looking up. Thinking I've never even heard of this before.
So rare earth in the rare earth bucket.
Yeah. So it was, and then they're in Malawi, in Africa and stuff. So there's plenty of risk there. A lot of these stocks. So hard to trade some of those, but it does tell you that definitely some of these other metals are starting to sort of pop up here. So there's a few other ones in there. I think, there's a couple others in there. I think like Ordinate was in the list. I think Self-Wealth, probably Novo. So some outside of the metals, but yeah, predominantly still a lot of metals in that it's there. I think Patriot Metals PMT was sort of one of the first ones there. So that sort of had still a lot of lithium's names actually showing a bit of strength there. So some good volume through there as well, Chris. So still sort of hasn't broken a swing high here, but is it positive that thing I like about Patriot, and this is just an observation that I've sort of made over the years. So about 5 years there. Just move my face out of the way there. But see how this is an IPO, and then obviously it came back, retested, tested the low here. I found this, this particular IPO, when I go back and look at a lot of IPOs, they can sort of start, pretty hot. Like some of the names come on, everyone, they're all touted to be the next big thing, and then they get a bit hot, and then all the news eventually dries up, and then they can pull back. Or sometimes they go for a bit of a run, and then after they've had a great run, they'll come back and retest the lows as well. So there's a couple of sort of patterns I've noticed with IPOs which just repeat over and over again. And one of those ones is to come back after having a good run, is to come back and retest the low, do that false break. So I see this a lot at IPOs. I reckon probably 30% of IPOs will have this sort of setup here. They either sort of, then they'll start to build here, either go for a great run, or they'll build it and not do too much. If the story's not that strong there, it'll probably just meander around for a bit. But this is a common setup here to come back and retest the lows there. We saw here down the low here, so the volumes were pretty high as well. We're pretty up. We pulled back here, volumes dried up again. And then down the low here, we're seeing the volumes come back in again. So this is interesting from a bigger picture point of view. Definitely a metal out of favour at the moment. Always looking for those newer names, Chris, because they're the ones that can have the bigger moves, we know. So the ones that have been around for a long time, they don't tend to sort of have that, and one of the reasons why those names that have been around for a long time is that the tighter register with a lot of the newer names as well. Because if you think about say like 20, 30, or say 50% of the shares issued to insiders, oftentimes they have like a 2 or 3 year holding period there before they can sell any. So might mean that somewhere between 30 to 60% of the shares can't be traded. So funny how when you see something like that, when you see like maybe 50, 60% of the shares can't be traded for the first 3 years, only 40% free float, those are the ones that can really shoot, really can have a really aggressive move, because there's just not many, the whole company can't be traded there. It can be driven up a lot more faster there. So it's definitely something to look at. Is that how many shares? One thing, how many shares are held by insiders, and two, how long a period are they locked up for as well. So that can have a really big determinant there. And then also the way that they're structured, like a lot of the time there, CEOs now and the insiders are structured. They get there. Say they got 10 or 20% allocation shares there, maybe a bit more. If the share price performs, above certain markers, they get issued more shares. So if the share goes up 100%, they might get issued another 2 or 5% of shareholding. So oftentimes the insiders are rewarded for getting the share price moving higher there. So just something to keep an eye on there with companies as well. Little snaky tidbits there. IKE was sort of bit small here. BMT was one that I thought was interesting, just because it's probably bigger volume there. Again, still a small name, still under 30 cents here, Chris, but at least there was some bigger volume there. SYA was sort of coming out of that metal space there, coming out of a bit of a slump, really. The problem with this one is it's got so many, see a lot of people pushing this one here, and obviously the sector's starting to move here. Some of those sort of lithium and sort of rare earths starting to move here, but this has got so many losers in front of it. It's going to be hard for it to really get going here. So that's what I mean there, because it's been around for a long time here now, the stock. Now there's plenty of shares on issue, plenty of people who bought them a lot higher, plenty of people who are looking to sell any rally here just to reduce their loss. So that makes it hard, So you want, when the shares have gone to new highs, we know, but no one's really losing. Everyone's a profit, so it's not one person who's losing. So that often comes, that doesn't cause any sort of selling and stuff there. So yeah. CAT I thought was interesting on the list as well. That sort of, this whole thing here did sort of set on top of the previous high, nice and tight little channel here, and then broke out. Well, you can say there's a little VCP in here, tightened up and then broke out. Again, we're still sort of sitting on top of the high here, Chris, as well. So really had a good run, good volume there. We pulled back here, but the volume's pretty light. Even had a bit of a volume here as well, but again we pulled back, the volume's pretty light as well. So CAT's still sort of holding pretty well here, really. So it just sort of keeps building on top of the trend here so far. So I don't see anything negative with that so far. So looks kind of constructive.
It's absolutely extended for a 0, 1, 2, 3, looking at Catapult. So
yeah, I think so. I mean, it's if you're getting, when you see them too far apart like that, like I know, like that S32 when that sort of built there, you got nice and tight here.
So a lot of overlap.
Whereas sometimes they can get too. If you're getting a third one up, it's up 20-30%. By the time you're getting a third high low, can be a bit tougher there. You can sometimes you can see them come back in a bit larger. I've seen a few like that. A few lithium names in there. I thought LTM was pretty interesting as well. That's a newer name, so one to sort of keep an eye on. We like the new names. Domain as well. It's pretty interesting domain, but it's sort of like, REA has just shot the lights out here, and domain's been going down the whole time. So this is pretty, this is a bit of a downtrend. It's still pretty corrective, Chris. So it's not like it's not coming. It's not like it's going down like impulsive like this. This is overlapping. It's just, so some stage there, it'll either fail to break a swing, last swing below, and then roll off here, or it'll rally up here, come back, sit on top of the high, and then go again. So this is what I meant to Bill McLaren. This would be, he'd be keeping an eye on this now, because that might have just had its little first little rally here, pull back. Now we've just come back and maybe sat on top of this first high here, and this sort of build from here. So still a bit of volume in there. That's probably not ideal seeing that sort of volume there, but this is one here. Maybe seeing a change of character there, but just for me, it's on the radar. I'm not doing anything with that, but we might sort of see a change in there. I think CHN was on the list as well, Chris. So that's another sort of small area. Got some plenty of losers to battle through here, but there was a bit of volume on this one as well. So not bad here. Good percentage moves, but again, you've got a myriad of losers there all the way down here. So it's going to battle to get going here. So to me, I just it's not a leader, it's a bit of a lagger. So, the one thing I'll keep sort of trying to go over my rules there. Number 4, only trade the leaders and the stronger stocks. It doesn't really fit that criteria. And in that sector there, if you look at PLS at the moment, that's been That's been probably the furthest one of the furthest lithium plays there. We just got high low. We just recently got had a pullback in here, had a VCP in here, tightened up, and then popped out a little B wave and had a bit of a run, but didn't really go on with it. But now we've got this sort of pullback in here, second pullback, third pullback. So again, these corrections are getting narrower and narrower and narrower. So there's a little VCP within the VCP here. So yeah, just the thing is, if you go back and study the personality of these stocks, you'll I noticed that the PLS, it tends to build in a messy manner. So it just keeps sort of building high low. So you just want to keep edging your stop up underneath the last high or so. And then if it breaks high low, then you're out there. But it's the same on the way down as well. Look how it trends down here. This lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, and eventually it's broken, and then maybe the character changes there. So that's why sort of we overcomplicate this business sometimes, but it's we just got to look at the basics and stuff there. One of our viewers there, Justin, was talking about GHY. I think he was lucky enough to sort of get on this one. Nice little VCP in there. So see how it's had a pretty good run through here. Obviously trending up. That's impulsive and that's corrective. Impulsive, this is corrective. But in here, there's a VCP. So VCP, obviously volatility contraction pattern. So basically means that each correction is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And the whole thing tightens up. You almost get this coil, and then you explode out of it. So you either break down out of it or you break up out of it, whichever way you break, you normally get another move here. So we can see in here that there was good volume up into that high. There's a little lesson here, so a little bit of volume through here, but then it's started to see the volume build through again, and then started to pull back in here, a bit light on the rally there, saying it wasn't quite ready, and the whole thing pulled back in there. The volumes are pretty light through here. Had a little bit of a bounce here, but again, not much volume there, not really saying much. But then the last 3 or 4 days in here, look at this. So we're just starting to see, that's the thing, with the BCP, is sort of, you read Minervini sort of stuff there and read some of the tutorials on it, you're really looking for that sort of, as the coil price action to really, really tighten up at the end, and then the volume to really drop as well. So you're just kind of seeing the exhaustion of the sellers there. And then if you deal, we're kind of going into almost a bit of Wyckoff theory here, but just started to look at, okay, we had a couple little jumps here, 2 days up, a bit more volume than we've seen through this little down period there. Then we had this one down day. What was that down day there for us as well? Absolutely no volume at all.
Minuscule. It's only like 1 or 2 days lighter in the last month or two.
Yeah. So I like to see the B wave break here, the little break above the high there. So it did sort of break that. So you could have bought the gap up here. But yeah, this was a bit of a clue here as well, the volumes, So I know sort of Justin was talking about the volume, he likes to sort of see the volume really tighten up here. And that's bang on there. When you get towards the end there, you really want to sort of see that price action tighten up and the volume there, and then had a nice move there. There was another one that I was watching there, 29M, because this has got another, had a bit of a breakout here, had a bit of a move above 50, pulled back here, another rally, some good volume through there, and then it pulled back with some lighter volume, some good volume again, and then it pulled back into the volume actually had really dried up here, but I thought around here, this might break up here, might kick up here, but it hasn't. It's actually broken below the 50. So it hasn't really taken the lower yet. So it could still be a BCP, but that was a little bit of a funny day here yesterday. So it hasn't really sort of gone. So need to sort of see a bit of a change of character there. Still within the BCP framework here, but not looking perfect, I guess is what we're looking for there. So whereas the VUL we were talking about last week there, this is one that I sort of watched pretty closely. That was a good setup there, because we sort of did see that, a little first, second, third tighten up here, the pretty low volume there. And the first day up here, we see some good volume there. So, okay, this is looking pretty ominous here. And then it's got on with it. So that's what we're looking for in those VCPs. Overall for me, not a bad week. I think yesterday was the first day I lost money for the week, which is a bit of a bummer, but I think finished today okay. consolidating last week's gains is sort of was the main aim for this week for me. Make sure I don't go backwards after having a pretty good week. Did see a pretty good quote there from Jason Shapiro during the week. He was talking about trading. He said, "Is there another job where you can work your ass off and still lose money?" I thought that's a good quote because I don't know too many other jobs where you can work this hard and lose money. So yeah, but that's part of the game. I know my sort of personal stats for the year that I make around about 140, 150% of my profits in about sort of 12 to 13 weeks of the year. So can be a grind for for the other sort of 2/3, 3/4 of the year. But but the thing about trading is sort of when markets do open up in that green period there, you sort of got to make profits when the market's really sort of running there. So the rest it's all about managing your risk, keeping it all tight. Just not we cover lots of sort of stocks in there, and I do mention a lot of this, a lot of small ones in there. Kind of interesting there if you want to get into small caps and stuff there. But I personally find it a little bit too hard just because the gains can be, you can make some bigger gains in those smaller names, but you can get some bigger losses as well. And I just, me personally, I like to control my losses a lot more. So I just like to know what I'm going to lose. If I'm comfortable with what I'm going to lose, because that's the game. We are professional losers in this game as a trader. You got to get comfortable with losing. You got to become a good loser. The key there is just to become a professional loser who loses small constantly, and then when you win, you got to win big constantly. That's the name of the game. It's not any more harder than that, not more complicated. That's the game simplified.
Well, that's a great insight, along with the quote that you just shared with us. And it's probably a good point to mention that this week, this coming Wednesday evening in Adelaide, you'll be discussing a lot of the research that goes behind your quotes, setting up the portfolio construction, your risk management, and your entries, your exits, your setups, and how you look at the market. So it's a nice, real summary of all of those traders, their trading approaches, and what you've learned from them. So that's Wednesday night live in Adelaide. And you did also mention, so we've got a link we'll put down in the description. And also in the description, we've had a few people say, look, the codes are going so quickly. And we do know that the print in Iris that we're taking a screenshot of your screen, Gary, is quite small. So in the description below, we try to do it chronologically, listing all of the codes so that it's easy to follow there. That obviously sometimes we do reference back to a name before that you've already covered, so they might not be duplicated. But that's one way of following up the codes. And we just say thank you very much for the communication, the feedback, and the conversations that we're having with the viewers about BCPs, what they're trading, and sharing those. So thank you for getting in touch. And to that point, we say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'll try and repeat some of those codes a bit more often, and we'll try and get AI on the job of trying to watermark our screens. Maybe that's sort of something to aim for the next month or two.
Yeah, definitely. If somebody knows how to do that, hit us up and tell us a comment to do it. Otherwise, we'll be researching it. But we'll wrap that for the weekend and see you all next week for Tuesday's Gary's report, which will be on the right-hand side. Some of the insights also on the right, and his Twitter handle or his X handle over there on the left.